Michael Rossi. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Michael Rossi, Chairman of the Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission. I would like to call this meeting to order. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Cynthia Lettieri. Here. Eddie Alberino.
Here.
Dylan Walter.
Here.
Michael Rossi.
Here.
Lawrence Edwards. Jay Mandel.
Here.
Mary Ellen Dahlgren. I'm here. Mike Florio.
Here.
Bo Clark.
Here.
Susan Marcus. Here. Zach Lord.
Here.
Robert Corson.
Here.
Okay. All our full members are here, so we won't be seating any alternates tonight. My only chair's comments before we get to the annual meeting is to welcome our new clerk, Lori. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
I hope we don't scare you off too soon. Okay. With that, this is our annual meeting also, so we have the election of officers for next year. I am passing the ceremonial gavel to the secretary for the election of the chair. Okay. I don't know where okay. So now
For the election of the chair, do we have nominations?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Mike Rossi for chairman. I'll second that.
Thank you very much. I'm honored.
Are there any other nominations? Motion to close nominations?
So your motion to close.
Okay. And in as much as there's only one nominee, I will cast one vote in favor of Michael Rossi as chair. Good to go.
Thank you. Okay. Now we need nominations for vice chair.
I'd like to make the nomination for. Second it.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Okay. Do we have any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, I would like to close nominations. We have a motion.
Motion to close.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I'll enter one vote for
I think I am.
oh, you enter it as secretary? Okay, well, I'll give you that.
As secretary, I'll enter one vote. I think I probably have to vote for Walter Clark as secretary, the vice chair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and then finally, we need someone to be nominated for secretary.
Okay, Dahlgren, secretary.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Both second, thank you.
And I think I probably have to be Mary Ellen Dahlgren for purposes of.
Okay, Mary Ellen Dahlgren, okay.
I'll
Is that what it says?
But that doesn't go in the minutes.
Okay. Any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the nominations. Thank you. Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Any motion carried? And since you can't enter your own vote, I will enter a vote, one vote for Mary Ellen.
Whatever my name is.
Okay. With that, I'd like to thank everybody for your support. I really appreciate it. Let's move on. Minutes review and approval of the November 4th, 2024 meeting minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve those minutes.
Thank you. Mike, okay. Any discussion, any corrections? Okay, in that case, all those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Opposed? You're abstaining? Okay, thank you, Zach. Okay. With that, we move to our public hearing. The public hearing tonight Is there a notice of public hearing to read?
Oh, yeah. Town of Clinton, Planning and Zoning Commission, 54 East Main Street, Connecticut, 06413, legal notice of public hearing, hybrid town hall green room. The Town of Clinton Planning and Zoning Commission will hold a hybrid public meeting on Monday, December 9th, 2024 at 7 p.m. to consider EZC 24-19, modification of a special exception to allow for a second residential unit in Unit 3 at 151-153 East Main Street, map 67 block 52, lot 17 and 17A. The applicant is Thomas A. Smith. At said hearing, all persons will have the right to be heard. The applications and correspondence are available for public inspection at the Clinton website, https clintonct.portal.opengo.com/records/20703. Anyone requiring special accommodation to participate in the public meeting should contact the land use office 860-669-6133. Michael Rossi, Chairman, Town of Clinton Planning.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to have a public hearing. Again, I want to make sure we know what's going to do. We'll hear from the applicant, and then we'll hear a chance for the commission members to ask questions about the application, and then we'll open it up to any public comments or questions. And after that, or during this time, everything should be addressed to the commission. Thank you. Is there an agent or applicant here?
Yep, Tony Bolduc, agent for the applicant from Thomas A. Stevens Associates. I did bring a map, but I see that you got the screen going, so if you.
We can pull it up.
Yeah. So just quickly, I was here back in, well, not back up here, I'm sorry. So 151-153 East Main Street was approved in March of 2021. We came back to you guys in September 9th, seeking a modification for units 1, 3, and 4. And a lot of the commission focused on units 1 and 4, which were supposed to be residential upstairs, mixed use, commercial downstairs. And unit 3 was always a single family home. The owner of the property would like to change unit number 3 to a duplex. And that never really got addressed. So we kind of wanted to come back and see if that was something you were still open to. I think that's pretty much it.
You can just show on the map where unit 3 is.
So scroll up here. Yeah, so this is unit 1, 2, and this is number 3 on the right side of the road as you come in.
So the one thing that things are coming back to is, do you have, what has substantially changed since the last time you?
So there was zero discussion about unit 3. Unit 3, again, is the kind of odd man out. It was always a single family home. The discussion totally centered on units 1 and 4 because they were mixed use. And the commission, even the minutes reflect that the discussion was about units 1 and 4 remaining mixed use. So
You're, in your opinion, we didn't consider this one at all.
Agreed.
Okay.
I think we talked. We did, yeah. We agreed that it was
Different.
it was a completely different application because I wasn't addressed. Unit 3 was never proposed to have any commercial use in it. It was always residential.
yep, was going to be single family.
That's the one closest to the highway and to the road?
Yes.
Yeah.
And there would be no outside changes. Design review wanted it to look more like a single home, so there'd be no difference in the view from the outside.
And in particular, there's no garage door fronting on Main Street.
On the backside.
And it's going from how many bedrooms in the single family to the duplex
So it was 3 originally, it'll go to 2 and 2, so
before?
and credits.
Okay.
Are there any other questions from the commission at this time?
No.
Okay. So at this time, then I would like to offer the public, if they have any comments on this application, to speak. And if you're joining us on line, please put your name in the chat and let us know that you're interested in speaking. I'm just waiting to give people a moment. Okay, I'm not seeing anybody show interest in speaking. Oh, do you want to?
Yeah, I'll just get it in.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Link Morrissey, I'm 202 later person, your neighbor right behind you. Your back was to me, so I didn't talk to hear everything you had to say. Sorry. Right now, that's a duplex. Two family or three family home?
So the one we're talking about is a single family home, and they want to convert to a duplex.
So I'll make sure I'm talking about right. So it's the building, it's the gray building.
No, not that one. So there's the proposed one to the right of that.
Okay.
So, yeah, the one is not.
Okay,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah,
So
it
did we
was hard to
revisit
see
this?
that on the map.
Did we revisit this last month or last meeting when the mixed use wanted to go residential? That was voted down.
Those are two outlying, one to the left and one farther.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're dealing with the unit that wasn't dealt with.
So, yeah, is that the only,
That's the only unit being considered tonight.
okay, so I know what, yeah, that's all.
Well, the rest of it is staying as both.
Okay.
It's approved.
Thank you.
Did you want to make any comment about, or other than that? Or you-
Yeah. You're just that,
So this is,
this land been taken care of, but been knocked down for years. There's been no movement on the building. And I don't want to do owner of one. And now I'm starting to think it's affecting my home. It's like kind of on the bearing side. So I didn't know what your plan was for forward issue with the town.
Speak up, not to him.
Oh, sorry. So is there an issue with the town or is this just, it's one what's going on with my neighbor, I guess, what I'm asking.
Okay,
And how it affects me and the other residents of Landon Court. I know someone will be here tonight, I'm not sure or not, but I'm certainly gonna speak on their behalf.
thank you. There,
I think it partially answered your question. This is an approved project, and perhaps the gentleman in front can give us more of a timeline to answer your question, although it really doesn't address what we're talking about tonight.
but it's an insufficient.
Right.
yeah, that's reasonable. Go ahead, man, address that.
Yeah, so there's actually, there's a start date of just after New Year's. So we'll most likely start with the units one set back. So not units 1, 2, 3, and 4, excuse me, 1, 3, and 4, but 6, 7, and 8. They're units just behind it. So B&L they're kind of backlogged at the moment, so I'm trying to get them forward. They did, like I said, they came out and took all the topsoil out and got everything prepped. And then as we went through planning and zoning with the last units, they kind of wanted to do those first, but B&L went on to another project, so just trying to get that back.
And you plan on doing landscaping around the units and making it look very nice
Yes.
and welcoming, I'm guessing.
Yes, there was actually a landscape plan and design review, wanted specific plantings on the front ends. So,
Thank you. Okay. Any further questions from the public or any comments from the public? Watching the chat box. Okay, with that, any additional questions or comments from the members?
No, I mean, I'm prepared to make a motion, but I think maybe we should listen to Abby's
Well,
staff comments first, in case that raises any questions.
Yeah, well, then, did you have any other additional comments?
Sure, so I provided the commission with a staff report just summarizing the sort of history of approvals and most recently the denial of 2414 and the commission's subsequent decision to determine that this was substantially different enough to be able to have this conversation here tonight and to hold the hearing. The recommended motions, again, there's based on the minor addition of another residential unit and only one other bedroom than what would have been previously, proposed. There's no parking impacts. Brad, as folks of the health district, has already gone ahead and approved this. And so there's really not a significant change in terms of what the impact will be as a result of this. So, the staff is recommending approval.
With that being said, I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
I have one question.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Your start date, you said is like January 2025. Did you
Yeah.
have a proposed finish date or an expected finish date? I know that's really hard with large projects.
I don't have an expected end date.
Okay,
Apologize.
nope, just.
Do we have a motion and a
Yeah, I
second to
second
close?
it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. The public hearing is closed. For staff reports, we've just, basically heard the staff report, for, this application or the past applications. We'll move on to new business. The first one is, 20 Killingworth Turnpike, preliminary discussion about outdoor entertainment. Who do we have here to speak to this application or this discussion?
Attorney Bill Sweeney is with us virtually.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to shut those doors?
yes, please.
You got it?
I'm
Thank you.
here. Yeah, I'm here, Mr. Chairman, but I don't think I'm up for outdoor entertainment tonight. I'm up for the next item on your agenda.
Oh, sorry, I was looking ahead. I'm sorry. Emma, I'm sorry. Emma Nelson and Kathleen from Clinton Premium Outlets are here today. I'm sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah.
Emma, you want to take the lead?
Good.
Okay. So essentially we're looking to start hosting more events like our sister outlets have hosted in the past. We've been looking over the past, a few years trying to host carnivals and more outdoor entertainment that branch away from the inner common area of the mall and start utilizing the parking space. We recently had a bit of luck with hosting our first circus, which went very well. We had 10 completely sold out shows in like a 3-day period and had them appear back. And when they came back, we discovered, that there were some restrictions to the number of events that we could have and the day duration of it. And we would like to start conversation because we've received quite a bit of interest over the past few years of different types of events of all different sizes. And now that we've held one larger scale event, we're receiving much more interest in other people coming within the next following years.
Okay, where are you asking about, are you interested in where on the property or number of events or duration? Which questions are you asking?
So I guess it's kind of a mix of both. We have 3 different highlighted areas that we would be able to utilize in the parking lot that we have utilized in the past. One is the larger overflow lot, which is you pass it right when you go through the main entrance. The other one is more of a rectangular portion of the parking lot, which lines up to the Gap main entrance. And then the third one is a much smaller footprint, but it's the only flat space that we have, and it's right behind Saks. Each one of those, we've received different interest from all different size vendors, everything ranging from like a Pixar mini golf to carnivals, car test drives, a traveling pumpkin patch, Christmas tree sales. I think we're looking to expand the amount of events that we could have. We definitely have a certain amount of dates that we would consider blackout dates where we would just be completely unable to host any form of event. And if we did have anything in the parking lot, it would be a small footprint vendor, and they usually hold up just 1 or 2 parking spots. If we were going to do a large space event, I believe I sent in a list of our blackout dates, which would leave us only with like a 5-month period that we would be able to host those events. We would not be interested in hosting more than 1 a month at most. We believe that we're definitely being held back by the 2 event per year limit, but we would not be trying to exceed more than 6 events. Some of the events would even be considered shopping events, like the Touch a Truck or the food truck event, but we just can't fit it in the close proximity of the inner space of the mall, and we would have to utilize the parking lot, which then I believe bleeds out into those restrictions. And then I think there was also the concern of the 3-day max per event, because when the Cirque did do their return, in order to accommodate with our fire and police department's coverage, they had communicated and ended up stretching the days out. And then we realized that we then had that 3-day max, and then the client ended up having to cut shows. So we're pretty much just looking for a way that we could try to overcome these obstacles.
Some of those obstacles would require us to change the regulation, obviously. In fact, I think most.
I can provide a little bit of a summary of
Go
section
ahead.
28 if it's helpful. So section 28 of our current zoning regulations deals with outdoor entertainment. And so outdoor entertainment includes things like musical concerts, performing arts recitals, exhibitions, fairs, festivals, arts and craft shows, or similar permitted uses that would be subject to certain conditions. There are limitations that they can only be held in business, marine, and village zone districts. So trying to keep these to sort of commercial venues. They cannot go past, they need to end before 10 p.m. There cannot be more than 2 events, which may last up to 3 days per property per calendar year. And unless you are a religious, philanthropic, or educational institution, or a municipal entity, you have that time and number of event limit on you. And so I think what could happen is that folks with the outlets could make an application to the commission to modify section 28 of the regulations to add another bullet point where we have the exemption for properties owned by the philanthropic categories or other sort of quasi-municipal or public uses. We could add another bullet point in there that still requires folks to obtain a zoning permit, but to limit it to specific shopping centers, right? There's a category of use in section 27 of our regulations for shopping centers, and that would be different from neighborhood shopping. So shopping centers have more of a regional element to them. There's only a few in town, and it would still be subject to a zoning permit, which means going through, applying with Kathy, and going through, going through applying with Kathy and making sure that police, fire, any emergency ambulance, anybody else who is needing to have some kind of say over this. So if there's going to be a large tent, if there's something that has to go to the state, for certification, any of those types of things would still be subject to zoning permits. So it's not a guarantee that every single event would go forward. The thing that's important here to think about is that if the modification comes in under outdoor entertainment, then it's the outdoor entertainment types of activities that would be permitted. And one of the things that I think would be useful for Kathleen and Emma to hear from you is, are there any events in the materials that were sent to the commission, I can read them off for you if you need me to, that feel like they do not fit under outdoor entertainment, in which you would be concerned about a zoning permit being issued? And so the one
that was obvious was the tree sale.
So tree sales, I know there's a meat truck that folks have done, so it's sort of retail operations, car test driving, and or okay. So if there's particular retail uses, and so that I just want to make sure you hear that directly from the commission. So I'll be quiet, and if there's anything in particular the commission wants to give feedback on in terms of a potential regulation amendment application, now's the chance.
Well, may I speak? Go ahead. I was gonna ask about exactly what you brought up. With the outdoor entertainment. What are they under a tent? Are they under a tent? Are they outside?
It depends on the event, if I'm correct.
There's a lot that could happen, so.
Yeah, so some could be intense, some could be just an open air. It would depend on the event, and each one would be subject to the required permitting. So if building and fire marshal and other folks, state folks are involved.
All those permissions.
Exactly, and that's where the zoning check is sort of that checks and balance. They don't get the zoning permit without all of those sign-offs from the appropriate agencies on it.
Oh, you were going through the list?
Yeah, I mean, I went through the list prior to this, and, you know, I agree in principle to this, but there is a few things that kind of raise my concerns. I think the meat sale, the firework tent, the car test drive course, I mean, that's something that's,
Yes.
that requires a lot more expertise to even consider. The firework tent, I don't think that's a necessary thing. I don't think it draws the crowd that we're looking to draw. I think we want to support
Well-
Clinton Crossings.
I think an easier way to say that is, if it's entertainment, retail is an entertainment.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
So
actually
that's
just
a
gonna ask,
good issue.
the line that we're considering here is the application for outdoor entertainment event, and that's the key.
So that's the section of the regulation that would be, if we were to change the regulations to allow for temporary entertainment events, that's the section that would need to change. That's their limiting factor. If there is a temporary vendor permit that needs to be applied for, that is something that they could also apply for. If somebody were sort of saying, okay, we want to have a vendor permit on this particular property, that could happen. And if they run out of limitations on the vendor permits, the other opportunity would be for the management at the outlets to modify the actual permit for the outlets themselves to say, we have sort of a transient vendor spot. And as long as it sort of meets the parameters of the site plan, these sort of temporary retail uses are allowed. Some of that already happens inside the mall proper along the pedestrian way
Correct.
today.
Yes.
So it's not so far out of the realm of what is already going on. The distinction here is the difference between vendors and the outdoor entertainment section.
Is that including bands and stuff like that?
That would be outdoor entertainment.
That's what I'm talking about, the outdoor entertainment.
What about like a craft fair? where
Yeah.
they're selling craft?
Well, bands
Is that
are
vendor?
important because you know what kind of bands, how many people come, you know, and so much stuff can happen with, you know, different bands, you know.
What do you, like, I'm going with,
In terms
you
of
asked an interesting question.
craft fair, where you have like people selling mugs and hot plates and stuff like that, or
And would that be considered retail or entertainment? Yeah, what's people's opinion?
well, retail. I mean, it's retail.
Yeah, that's retail.
And like we see that though, in Clinton at the, for example, church fair, the bookstore, the library has it.
Right.
And if I could for you, the craft shows are specifically identified as outdoor entertainment in section 28. Because they tend to come along with other food, or it's sort of people are going to sort of gather and it's, yes, things are being sold, but it's also sort of an event that happens. There's a little bit of a sort of a different quality of those particular things, of local artisans coming to share and hold those craft shows. So the commission specifically put them in as outdoor entertainment in section 28. So those will qualify under this.
Go ahead, Jay.
And then to discuss this meat vendor, is that like a food truck? Cause like that's
Frozen.
different.
It's frozen meats, I think, like
Yep.
schwans or those.
So we have a distinguishing, like technically speaking, it is selling, like it's a food truck, just you gotta compare it at home, like, is there a distinguishing factor for those, like a food truck festival versus different farm stands, like farm vendors?
So I think the question would come back to section 14 and how what would come in under individual vendor permits. So we would be looking at stationary vendors. So a vendor which operates a truck or trailer or other portable structure, but is intended to stay in one location. That would then have permission from the mall to be at a particular location and get a vendor permit for a discrete period of time and be on site to conduct
They
their
have
sales.
those now, I think, like Carvel and,
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So they can currently do that.
So they
Yeah.
could host
Yeah.
a farmer's market if they wanted to, underneath the individual vendor permit.
if I may, we did the American Legion up there, and we had, you know, soliciting funds, you know, for the American Legion, and there was 1 million food trucks up there.
So they have events that have been ongoing for some time.
Yes. They took up.
That are part of their sort of overall mall permitting. And so that there's those types of things. These are sort of in addition to things that are directly supporting the retail, sort of like bringing in the food trucks that you've got folks, it's open during business hours. It's sort of, you're seamlessly integrating into the retail and sort of mall experience. A little bit different from saying we're going to hold a discrete event that could stand alone, like a circus, a festival, a separate craft show, something that is a little bit different from the rest of it. That's really sort of the distinction here.
Abby, can I ask you a question? Is there a minimum number of parking spots that you need to keep open for mall shoppers? Because if you have CERT going on and then you also have food truck vendors, that kind of,
That's one of the reasons they have those blackout dates. in
Okay.
there, Because they know that, like, for example, the Black Friday, Christmas season, they need those parking spaces.
Okay.
So that's
I
why
just wanted to
they don't
make
want to have events.
because I think it's
all
a
year.
great idea. I do. I think that anything that brings more attention to Clinton and brings that business that is so critical for tax dollars. I think it's great. I just want to make sure that everything is, thought out as far as that stuff goes.
I mean, and that, the question really becomes, how many extra seat spaces do they have right now?
Correct. My understanding is that it's overparked and there are separate private agreements between the various tenants of the facility as well, as far as I understand. So some of that has to do with who is occupying right now. I can let you guys kind of talk about that a little bit more than I have the expertise for your private agreements, but if you have any comment on that.
Yeah, so all of our retailers have a distinctive language in their lease agreements that require that a certain percentage of parking is accessible for their employees and shoppers. It fluctuates with the tenancies that we have. Currently, we have an abundance of parking, which is great when we need it. And then essentially, even with the handicapped parking itself, we have an overabundance of percentage of that as well. I think currently right now, if we were to look at the parking that is taken up by a variety of tenants, it's a very minimal amount. So right now, our total parking capacity is 1,629. And I would say roughly there are a handful of spots that are just taken up by a handful of food trucks and some other vendors that require specific parking. But I could certainly, that's a number I can get as far as what's required that we have to hold back for our leases.
Well, my question was more, and you sort of addressed it, Abby, was, how close are they to what is required under the zoning regulations based on the footprint?
And so we can go back into the original permitting and sort of for the retail area and the uses on site, run that calculation. And that's part of the compliance check that Kathy would be doing for the zoning permit. And I think it's important to keep in mind that what would potentially be proposed here is a change to the outdoor entertainment section of the regulation for shopping centers. So that analysis has to be done for any Stop and Shop, right? If ShopRite, there's certain larger commercial spaces that were permitted under that shopping center category, those all need to be evaluated for parking based on what was the minimum required, what are the current uses, and making sure that there absolutely is space. We could have, and you can write in some of those requirements. The zoning permit is issued in the shopping centers for more than these limited number of events, provided that. And language could be crafted to say, there's plenty of minimum parking for the uses that remain on site, those types of things. So we can certainly dial it down for that use a little bit.
Abby, under section 28, what's the process? Because would it be an allowed use, it just has to get cleared, or would it come back to the commission, or how would that?
No, right now, outdoor entertainment is a zoning permit, so it goes, it's an administrative piece. And the idea behind that when the commission adopted it was to make it easier for folks to have these sort of community events.
Go ahead. Is this gonna include carnivals and stuff like that?
It could.
So I guess like in a broader sense, as we're speaking in terms of like the larger, like the districts at hand, if there's a car show at the outlets, for example, that has space and they have a car show and you can test drive a car, that's permitted underneath like this concept. But then you move that over to Stop and Shop or a smaller outlet or a smaller parking area, and then you add the test driving of the car, that becomes
Right,
But
and
David,
then
you're
might,
gonna have-
so you might not be able to get that permit.
Okay, so that goes through Kathy and that make,
Yeah.
you make the distinguishing between, okay, you have space for this test driving of a car at a
Yeah.
car show once again.
And I also sent it out to the fire chief, the police chief, the fire, like everybody that's involved to make sure that they're all okay with it. Like with the circus, you know, we had to let the police know the fire marshal building, you know, because somebody had to check the tent, somebody had to make sure they had enough, you know, staff for emergencies for.
Yeah, everybody got paid.
And so those
So-
considerations are made. Us changing these regulations isn't a free for all. It allows
No,
those
they have to
considerations
go,
to
and
be
if
made.
there's an issue with one of them, they'll let me know. And then I have to contact the applicant and say, we need more information, or we need to modify this, or, you know, what can we do to make this work? And we work together to.
So the question really before us tonight is, you know, what information do you need? Or do you think, I say this correctly? The question before us tonight is, would we want them to, come forward with a proposal to change this section and for us to consider?
And that's kind of what I was gonna comment about Zach's, you know, he's getting kind of specific here, but they would have to come back to us, as Mike just said, for a zoning change. And at that time, we could say, okay, look, we don't want this, this, and this, and, you know,
Right,
so.
we have to see the text.
But I think in answer to Mike's question, I for one support the idea, the concept of doing things that will enhance Clinton Crossings and other shopping centers in town. I think what we can do to support the businesses and also perhaps expand businesses is a good thing. Some of the items here, I think during the public hearing, when this would come to public hearing, we might put a nix on. But I think in general, in my opinion, I think it's a good proposal that's certainly worth looking into.
I agree with that.
Well, go ahead, Jack.
She's asking to have more than 2 a year, correct?
Right, well, that would be part of the change.
Right, but all right, but that's what she's looking for, is to have what they can be.
Right.
Yeah, more than 2 a year, but also they're looking.
And
at
longer.
Just 1 month, basically.
duration.
Yeah, the
Just-
way that the section of the regulation reads now for the exemption, so any property owned by a philanthropic, governmental, educational, or religious entity is exempted from the number of events provision. So that number of events you're not held to. The duration, though, I mean, they're still meant to be sort of shorter in duration, and so what they would have to do is essentially add a second bullet point there saying, any property that, you know, is permitted as a shopping center is exempt from the number and duration provision, provided that, and then they can put in some caveats about the parking, about availability of emergency services, or whatever other pieces. If you want to have more control when it gets to Kathy, you can add those things in, and that's something that we can work as staff to help with craft and bring an application, based on your feedback.
So basically, what we're inviting them to do at this point is to come forward if they proposed
With the proposed.
amendment to the regulations.
Yes.
Correct.
No,
Make the vote.
no, there's no need to, this is a discussion, there's no vote. But, you know, what I'm hearing is that in general, people are positive about the, possibility of doing this. You know, again, the specifics will have to be looked at. But yes, we would welcome a, proposal as an amendment to the regulations from you.
Okay, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is 11 Killingworth Turnpike. Preliminary discussion about permitted uses in the IDZ zone district. Now we're probably to William Sweeney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it. Can everybody hear me okay tonight?
Yes, sir.
Terrific. I will try to be as brief as possible. I know you have other items on your agenda. My name is Bill Sweeney. I'm a land use attorney and I'm a partner at the law firm of Tobin Carberry over in New London. I've appeared before your board on multiple occasions over the last several years, but it's nice to be back before you tonight. I represent Brian and Ken Navarro, who own Greylock Property Group, who are the developers of the Indian River Shops in Clinton. And I actually came before this commission back in the spring of 2020, seeking a special exception and subdivision approval for the redevelopment of the former Morgan School using your interchange development zone regulation to create the Indian River Shops project. As you know, that project's been really successful. Phase 1 of the project is complete. The Big Y shopping supermarket is already part of the shopping center. We've got a couple of the other buildings up. We're now in phase 2. We're building some of the additional accessory buildings, and we've been making some really good headway in that regard. My clients are really excited about the project. We're very happy with it, how successful it's been, and really we think it's a real good success story about the reuse of the old high school site for a positive tax-paying commercial shopping center in town. As some of you know, the interchange development zone was created to encourage the redevelopment of that property according to a comprehensive plan, which we got approved with you back in 2020. And that plan was really intended, and the regulation, that district regulation was really intended to provide a developer flexibility to create an integrated development. And the special exception approval that we obtained from you gave us a variety of uses that we could locate within the shopping center that would allow us to attract and sign a group of tenants to the facility, as long as those uses appeared in our list of approved uses that was approved by the commission. Abby, I'm not sure, am I able to share tonight? Can I share something on the screen? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can share this. Can everybody see that okay?
Yes.
Oh, terrific. Great. So this is a picture of on Killingley Turnpike. This is a picture of what building we call building 2N in the shopping center. This is where the Madison Furniture Barn is. And you can see to the right, the reason I'm here tonight is about one of our tenant spaces in the shopping center that was up until recently occupied by Metro Mattress. So next to the Furniture Barn, one of the first tenants we got was this retail mattress store. We signed a lease with them for retail space. It's a very small space in the overall shopping center. It's only about 4,000 square feet. We signed them up, they occupied it, and literally a month after they began to occupy, we got a notice of bankruptcy from their corporate offices. And ultimately, they have vacated the shopping center. We were able to reclaim the space out of bankruptcy. And so we have been looking for a new tenant for this space. And about the same time, we were able to relocate the Metro Mattress or to get that space back out of bankruptcy. We were approached for a potential additional tenant. Let me just go to the next page here. And let me see if I can rotate. This is the actual site plan that was approved that night back 4 years ago, or over 4 years ago now. This is the area that I'm talking about. I have a little red circle down in this area. This is the building 2N, and that's that last tenant space on the end there. I've got another drawing here. This is the actual floor plan of the building that was built. And you can see there's about a 3,700 square foot tenant space on the end of the building where the mattress store was that we now have interest in. When we got the space back, we were approached almost a few days later by Yale New Haven Health. And Yale New Haven Health had expressed some interest in the Indian River Shops site to put in an urgent care clinic. And they have approached us. They'd like to lease the space from us. And we said, listen, we're very interested in the potential of adding an urgent care clinic to the Indian River Shops. But we wanted to take a look at the zoning issue. And so we reached out to Abby to begin a preliminary discussion. There are no proposed external changes to the building whatsoever, except for new signage. But there would be an internal build out of that tenant space to provide for exam rooms and for a lobby area. It would basically serve walk-in and appointment scheduled visits for urgent care or primary care services. The urgent care clinic would be staffed by 5 to 7 employees on the busiest shift. There's no overnight stays, so it's not a hospital. Nobody's staying overnight. This is for, sort of those first cut sort of emergency. Somebody's got the flu, somebody has an injury. If they can't process them here, they'll get them to they'll have to be sent to a hospital. But it gives that sort of first cut medical ability to deal with patients that a lot of communities, appreciate having in their community. And you see a lot of the hospital networks throughout the state have these urgent care clinics set up all over, including Yale New Haven Health. As you know, we've got plenty of parking at the shops for Indian River. The parking, we have literally almost 700 parking spaces. We're parked at 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet of space. Your zoning regulations today require only a minimum of 2 spaces for clinic use. And so this type of a use would fit really well into sort of the broad array of potential tenants that we could fit into the shopping center. You just go to the next page and do a little rotating here. So I did talk with Abby. I'm sorry, we did talk about the use. It's pretty clear that this urgent care clinic would be a clinic under section 345 in your definitions. It's an establishment where patients are admitted for the examination and treatment by one or more physicians, dentists, psychologists, or social workers, where patients are not usually lodged overnight. So I think we're in agreement with your staff that this is the use that would be captured by an urgent care clinic. Back in 2020, when we got our special exception, that application included a statement of use that we submitted and which was approved by the commission. And that statement of use, I'll go here. This is actually a copy of the statement of use we submitted for Indian River Shops, and we listed all in the schedule of uses under section 4.53 of our submission. All the possible uses we were seeking approval for in the development. So we had things like daycare facilities, hotels, offices, financial institutions, obviously shopping centers. We had restaurants, theaters, recreation facilities, and this went on. We also went on to the second page. We had all these additional uses that could be eventually hosted, and we actually even had special exception uses as well listed in our statement of use. And all these were approved as potential uses for the shops, or for the Indian River Shops. I worked on this with the project architect, Matt Williams, at the time. And unfortunately, we thought we had sort of tried to get every possible use that we might consider. But unfortunately, when we went through this, guess what's missing? Clinics. Clinics are not listed in our special exception. And so I met with Abby and we talked about it, and Abby agreed that clinics could be a good fit. They're in a lot of other shopping centers throughout the state and throughout the region. And so our initial thought was to come forward with a very narrowly tailored, targeted amendment or modification to our special exception, asking to include clinics as a special exception use in our plan. And that's when Abby found something else. And that's why we're really here tonight is we went on and she looked in the actual use tables in your zoning regulations under section 27-217, and it lists permitted uses, hospitals, clinics, extended care facilities, long-term facilities, a variety of things, all licensed by the state of Connecticut. But when you go to the interchange development zone, you've got an X in the use table. It's effectively prohibited by the use table, and the X says prohibited in the district. And so we ran into sort of a wall on this point, and we talked about it and really couldn't figure out why these would be prohibited in the IDZ zone, but they are. And we went back and looked at the regulation again that was in the actual permitted use regulation. This is section 20.4 out of your IDZ. It says the permitted uses in the zone are permitted uses that are commercial, institutional, cultural, residential, and municipal. So basically every type of use except for industrial that reflect the purpose of this zone through careful attention to appearance and the siting of buildings or site amenities. So if basically it seems to suggest that the IDZ seems to suggest you can propose any of these sort of broad range of uses that you can work into the shopping center, but yet the table says something different. The table is sort of, no, hospitals, clinics, and those types of uses are just strictly prohibited. And so talking with Abby, and I think I'm glad she caught it. I think she's correct. This is an issue. We were talking about the possibility of coming forward to the commission with a request to modify section 27-217, that part of the use table, to replace that X that you see on the screen and put a special exception designation there. And then also, simultaneously or more likely immediately thereafter, applying for a modification of the Indian River Shop special exception to add clinics as not hospitals, but just clinics as a special exception use within that zone. And if it's approved, then we could go forward with Yale New Haven Health to negotiate a lease and potentially to get them to situate in the shops in that 4,000 square foot space. So that sort of lays out why I'm here tonight. That's sort of where Abby and I got to in our discussion. But Abby thought it was, before we did anything, before any application was submitted, it would make sense for me to bring this before you, share it with you, and get some feedback on whether you thought this was a good idea and whether adding clinics is something that this commission could support.
Well, I'll start. I think it's a good idea, but I would suggest that instead of making it just changing the X to a special exception, I would separate clinics from hospitals.
Okay.
Keep the hospitals as an X, but the clinics as a special exception. And, just the size for the zone, I think a hospital would be out of character.
Yeah.
So that would be my only adjustment to what you had said personally.
I think that's a great suggestion and a great comment. I appreciate that. We certainly could work with you on that.
May I ask a question? There's a clinic next to Ace, there's a restaurant, everything over there. What is that zone? What zone is that?
East Main Village District.
It's East Main Village
That's
District.
the village, yeah.
Because there's a clinic in there, and it's just a shopping center, there's a clinic there,
It seems as though the intent was to sort of broadly allow this kind of use too, and in the language of section
Yes.
20, it seems like, that flexibility was meant to be there, and for whatever reason, the zoning table didn't catch up with it.
I got you.
But that's the best I have been able to
Seems
sort
so
of piece
reasonable,
together.
and like the chairman said, no hospitals, but clinics should be.
Well, the one you mentioned is,
Actually, I don't think they don't need a special, exception. I think they should just change the zoning for to be in the involved. That's what I.
Well, go ahead, Ellen.
Would the simplest approach be to break out hospitals separate from that other list in that table and X them out in the, so I mean, logistically, are we asking, Mr. Sweeney to draft the amended regulation that would do?
Correct. It would be an application to the commission with the necessary changes to enable this use.
Yes, that's
In
right.
general, I feel positively about it, just an inpatient hospital, I don't think is the right thing.
But it would still be, so once we break out the hospitals for the clinics, the clinics would still be a special exemption, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Because we don't need like 100 clinics, one would be great.
I would put it in the special exception uses in our application. So I would submit a revised statement of use for the project, for the shops project. And I would have that as a special exception use, but we have a special exception for the entire project. So we would come in, I'd give you the details on it so you were comfortable with it. Just like the hotel, there's a hotel that's a special exception use that's already approved. The hotel, we have to bring in the final site plan, but that use has been approved through that special exception. So I would submit that the clinic be a special exception. I'd come in and modify our special exception to include the clinic, but I actually agree. I think it's a great point. We can carve the hospital and all those other sort of long-term sort of nursing home uses,
Right.
put that in their own category, and those will stay in X. Those will stay prohibited in the IDZ.
Yeah, okay. Well, no, I'm not.
Well, I think my question's been answered.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, so was there a possible X because of anything to do with medical waste issues and for clinics or anything like
No,
that?
it was probably just, I have a feeling that everything got grouped together and it was because it was hospitals,
Okay.
you know, long-term care. I mean, but we bunched it all together, instead of breaking it out, and it probably should have been broken out.
I think also the IDZ was written at a time before the state hospital chains really tried to provide these outpatient service centers. I mean, that's a relatively new in the last, 10 years or so. You've seen hospitals like Yale, New Haven, Bacchus, L&M start to do these urgent care walk-in centers to try to meet the needs of the community, basically bring their services to the communities rather than waiting for people to come to them. That's a relatively new concept. And I think this regulation was written, clinics were sort of lumped in with hospitals because that business model wasn't fully vetted at that point. Now that's how service, particularly primary care and urgent care, is being delivered to our communities. So I think it's sort of maybe catching the regulations up with sort of the current nature of healthcare provision in Connecticut.
Yes, sir. Seems good.
Yes.
So again, similar question to the last time is, you two people feel positively about inviting them to bring this forward?
Absolutely.
1,000%.
Yes. Yep.
Okay. So we would, certainly welcome this. I think, it makes a lot of sense to me, and, the other members, most, seem to be in that same camp. So please, do this.
Terrific. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I hope you guys get out of there at a reasonable hour and enjoy the rest of your holiday season. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Item C, new business, item C, special exception, okay, to permit a liquor store pursuant to section 27.2.6 of the Clinton Planning and Zoning Regulations, and an associated site plan to permit retail restaurant in 10 residential units pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes 830G, 327 East Main Street, map 85, lot 69, block 121, zone B4. This is Bennett Engineering. We would need to receive this and schedule it for a public hearing on January 13th, 2025.
I'd like to make a motion to receive it.
I'll second that motion.
Okay?
Want me to read it off?
No, yeah, that's good enough. You don't have to read all that again. Okay. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to receive, and was that to also schedule the public hearing?
Yes, yeah, you interrupted me. That's it. And, schedule for public hearing.
Okay,
What date do you want to do the public hearing?
it's going to be January 13th, 2025. Getting scary.
Wow,
Yeah, we're into the next year.
January 13th?
Mhm. Okay, all those in favor of receiving this, then we'll ask for any
Aye.
Aye.
opposed. Thing, okay, it's received and we've scheduled. Does the applicant want to say anything? Is there an applicant here?
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
No question.
I don't know. Usually with receiving, we don't have to have things since they're going to be here for a public hearing anyway.
Okay.
Okay. The next one is, Planning and Zoning Commission 24-22, coastal site plan to permit retail restaurant, and 10 residential units pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, 830G at 327 East Main Street. This is the same site. again, we need to receive this for the coastal site plan.
I make a motion to receive the Planning and Zoning Commission 24-20.
Okay, got a second?
I'll second it.
Bill? Okay. Any discussion?
We're receiving it and then postponing it till discussion on the 13th.
Well, yeah, this is being, yeah. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yes,
before you close out new business, I was wondering if you could give a discussion regarding, regulation 17 .2.29, determining market value for flood zones. If we could change the definition of market value from the town's appraised value of the structure to, independent appraiser's value of the structure to fall more in line with every other town surrounding us except Waterford. We are the only town that bases it off of the tax assessor's appraised value of the structure, along with Waterford. Everyone else does it off of fair market appraisal for improvements and repairs to houses in the flood zone.
okay. Well, that would require us to change the regulations, so we'd have to do it through the regulation committee. Yep.
We can discuss it at regulations. committee.
Yeah, we,
And just to be clear, we sort of usurped the regulations committee for the next year. That is the time for the P O C D subcommittee.
POCD.
So we would need to find a date and time to do that
do that.
next, which is fine, but we just need to.
we can still have, yeah, it's the time that we usurp, not the. It doesn't mean the function can't happen.
Okay.
So, what would be a good time? I think Thursdays still work out best
Mhm.
for most people, for the,
It's
regulations.
still 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the P O C D is it's the last Thursday, or no, the first Thursday. of the
P O C D is the first Thursday of the month. The next one is actually January 2nd. So for folks who are there, that's something to think through. If folks are gonna be in that space. So the 19th is coming up very quickly. I think that's probably less likely to be scheduled that quickly unless folks are very available. 26th is the day after Christmas. I think we have some staff absences, so I think that's gonna be not an option for folks. The 2nd is taken, so January 9th, I think would be the earliest. I do not have anything on my calendar that night, so could certainly host that meeting if folks.
Okay, that would be a good thing for us to plan for this.
Yeah.
We can no longer do these as, virtual, I believe.
So we're supposed to be moving things back to in person. If something is entirely virtual, then we are obligated to just make sure that we're providing that link out to the public. I am exploring options for things like webinars where we can control access to meetings and stuff a little bit better. We don't have that service with Zoom right now. So if this policy evolves, we will let you know. But I think the presumption is in person unless there is a reason to be virtual.
So,
That said, we do have the ability to host entirely virtual meetings, and that may be necessary for the 2nd. For reasons it's happening right after the holiday, and we may have.
I said the 9th, right?
No, I mean, I'm sorry, I was talking about the P O C D subcommittee meeting, we need to keep as virtual. So, we're sort of moving through, there's nothing that says you can't host a virtual meeting from statute or anything else. This is just sort of a reactive town policy to make sure that we're covering our bases and protecting folks from exposure, so.
Well, there's like.
Delicate.
We still have meetings for people that go away and stuff.
Correct. The ability to call into a meeting and to share a link. We are still going to be using Zoom for recording our meetings, for posting our meetings up on YouTube. That doesn't go away. So if a member of the public needs an accommodation to attend, if they can't get here in person, if there is an applicant or a member of the commission that needs to be calling in, just like we did tonight, that's still fine. What happens is we provide them with the link so we have an idea of who's coming in.
I was just worried about my budget.
I know. So all of that is still possible. So we will talk about virtual versus in-person hosting as we get closer to events.
Okay, so then what I hear is we will have a meeting on January 9th, to consider this. Right now, we don't know if it's virtual or in person or.
But that's for the P O C D.
This January 2nd is the P O C D, January 9th is the regulations subcommittee.
Which is the second.
Right.
Dylan, can you just say the section again?
Jesus, sorry, I moved off a bit.
17.2.29.
Yeah, 17.2.29.
Yeah, and I'll dig out my list of analysis of which communities are doing what. A lot of what we see is folks are essentially taking those market value appraisals as a secondary function. If there's a dispute on the assessor's appraised value, then having the option to accept a market appraisal. And that's where we don't have that provision. There's a number of communities up and down the coast. I've got every single one of them to take a look. So there are a few that have that provision. However, many communities have both, so that you have, if there is something where market conditions have substantially changed, but the assessments have not caught up to that, you have an ability to take additional information in. So.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
What time was the meeting supposed to be on 1/9?
6 p.m.
Okay. And then the P O C D meetings are at what time?
6 p.m.
Okay.
You were on the trip.
No, I have
Five.
teachers meetings
It's
every
fine.
Thursday. Every first and second Thursday, so it really hinders me from
Yeah.
getting to these meetings. Yeah, I know, I was here. for that.
Okay, now we'll go to old business. Planning and Zoning Commission 24-19, modification of a special exception to allow a second residential unit in Unit 3 at 151 and 153 East Main Street. We closed the public hearing tonight, so this is eligible for a decision.
Can I make a motion to approve that?
Yes, you may. Okay, were there any conditions or any?
There's something Abby
Yes.
suggested that we include some
I'm-
provision that it was a different application from the prior one.
Yeah, I think that was in it.
So at the previous meeting, the commission voted on the receipt of this application, that it was substantially different. So that provision of statute was met, and that finding was met upon receipt.
Thank you.
What I provided for you, staff report dated December 5th, was some particular conditions about this request and the appropriateness of this modification of the special exception to allow for that second.
So I move to approve application BZC 2419 to modify the existing special exception for 151-153 East Main Street to permit the addition of a second residential dwelling unit within Unit 3 and adopt the following findings. The addition of the residential unit will result in interior modifications to Unit 3, resulting in a total of 2 dwelling units in the building. No additional parking spaces are required on the site as a result of this approval. Connecticut River Area Health District approved this change on September 5th, 2024, noting compliance with Connecticut Public Health. And I find this to be inconsistent with POC.
Okay, and you had seconded it?
Mike,
Mike did. Okay. Bill, second?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Well, that's an easy application. Okay, in that case, all those in favor? Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Okay, committee reports, we need to get a report from the POCD committee.
Chairman, right there.
we're actually making good progress, with the plan of conservation development so far. We've adopted our logo, but we, branding, we call it. We also had, cards made up, the website is up and running so that people can go to the site and submit their the questionnaire is on there. They can also submit other comments on there, and they can also follow along with the process to see how it's going. We had the Christmas in Clinton event where I were at the table all day and other people were there throughout the day. And we had pretty good feedback. I think a lot of people are confused as to exactly what the plan of conservation and development is. And some of the people, I was gonna give you a call today, because some of them seem to think that perhaps we were a separate group and not part of the town. Just the look on their faces kind of, looked like, okay, well, what are you guys trying to sell? So I think, there is an explanation of the process on the website, so hopefully the people will go to that. And the more interest we get out and the more interest the public has in this and reach out and speak to their neighbors about it and get educated about it, I think the better input we'll get on this. But all in all, we made good progress to date, and now we're having to wait to get back from the questionnaires and kind of get into the big push on this. Yeah, the main thing was to get the branding done, to get that all approved, and we achieved that, which is why we're not having a meeting this month. But we'll go back on it in January. Hopefully we'll have a lot more to add to it. So far, it's been going on quite smoothly.
One of the things that I knew was going to be an issue was educating the public of what we're trying to do, because it can sound scary to them, but the whole point is we want them to tell us what they want.
Right.
And
We try to get that.
It's really critical that we do what you're doing and get them to understand that we're actually curious about them.
Right.
What they want.
You can tell by some of the feedback, at least I thought that some of the people looked at it as if we were an independent group pushing this, as opposed to this is a function that we have to do as part of planning and zoning, and that's the part that we really have to try to get across to them.
I found that every time you say plan, some people just think of the Soviet 5-year plan. The word,
right.
Yeah, I just don't think that people know that it's something we have to do.
Right.
Every 10 years.
Yeah.
So, when people are like, what are we doing? Why is this happening? Like, they don't realize that this is something that has happened every 10 years.
But it's in their benefit, it's in our benefit.
It's all in how you sell it. It's all in the phrasing, like, hey, you want your input on what do you want to see put in your town? Like,
Right.
you get a little engineering talk in there and it makes it a little bit more confusing. But I don't know, we've got 12 people to put their emails down and stuff.
Yeah.
Victoria was impressed because she was expecting 2, so.
Yeah.
And I think the push right now is spreading the word, and I think we've talked about this before. It is going to go better if the ask comes from all of you than if it comes from me or our office. We are we're the government, we're sort of the policy people. It's sometimes we're less trusted, folks, and you are better connected than we will ever be. And so we need your assistance. We're going to be doing, I'll be up at the library, putting our flyers up and making sure that we have QR codes all over the place. I'm reaching out to the high school. We're doing all of those different things. We're going to try to get, maybe send a flyer to the fire department, try to really make sure we are broadly getting out to folks, and that we're doing this social media posts, right?
Maybe Facebook or something.
Yep. So I will resend some materials that came out. I'm going to resend some additional stuff tomorrow. I'm also going to be sending it out to every single board and commission in town to make sure anybody who's already participating is, has the tools they need to spread the word. Because we're not going to get responses if we're not sort of pestering people for it. Like, hey, I'm texting you, like, check this out. Like, this is the link. Go just click this right now. You're sitting on your couch. Just give me 5 minutes of your time. We made this a really short survey, and then sign up for future stuff, right? Come have a beer. We want to hear your thoughts on this plan. Folks can come in and talk to me anytime, but they're gonna want to hear it from you. So
The most outspoken people, don't ask somebody their opinion if they have an open face wound at the time. One at a night bus.
Yeah.
I don't know why, not take them to the clinic, clearly, but.
I gotta give you guys credit. You guys were up there all day. You guys, it was
And Dylan
freezing.
was in an elf costume.
Yes, yes, it was.
Certainly attracted attention.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else to report?
The only thing is, we do have to get input from town boards. Is that scheduled?
it's not scheduled yet. That's part of the work. So what the consulting team is shifting into now is some work with staff to start to schedule those meetings with boards and commissions in the January, February timeframe. Some of that is included in their contract. Some of it is going, there's more. We have so many boards and commissions that I will wind up sort of making the dog and pony show, and then whoever else wants to attend to sort of have this conversation. We'll start with the survey and then, look at the topics in the POCD that are specific to those groups. So we know The Conservation Commission needs to play heavily in this. EDC needs to play heavily in this. I sent out a particular invite in advance through Michelle to go to town council today. So they get kind of the prior look from from everyone else. So we're gonna have that hierarchy covered. But we want to make sure everybody is involved. So any group that you are tied to, even if they're a sort of quasi town group, the ones that we have our contacts for that are listed on our website, those are the easy ones to get to. It's, if there is a club that is active, if there is a group that you're aware of that really wants to be involved, now's the time. Schools covered, like that kind of stuff. But beyond that, if there's a club that you participate in, whatever it is, have those folks jump in. If you're, like I said, if you're heading to Scottish Daves, it's a great opportunity to say, folks, so this is the thing.
And I think an important point too is that when you're speaking to people, as Abby pointed out to a couple of people that we spoke to, is that a lot of times with government funding, these things have to be supported and acknowledged in your plan of conservation and development. So sometimes you cannot get the funding unless it's backed up in your plan, in your P O C D. So that's something they really have to get out. It's not a guarantee that, if you want to paint all the telephone poles green, that they're gonna be painted green. But, if you want to get government funding to paint them green, it's gotta be in your P O C D. So, that's an important thing to mention to people and to kind of push. In order to get certain funding, some of that depends on it being supported in your P O C D.
Thank you. Okay, next, correspondence and bills. Do we have anything this week? No, this one? Okay, in that case, we're the most important thing, adjournment.
So moved.
Second over there, okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're adjourned at 8:16.
So Laura, you're not quite there.
Make sure.